I'm Eric Novak. For 56 years, Mustang has been a brand name that has meant a lot. It's one of the most iconic brand names in the whole automotive sector. Think about the associations: power, muscle car, fastback, freedom, convertible, GT, Cobra, all these things. But now in 2021, we get to add two new terms never heard before: crossover and all electric. Beside me here is the first ever 2021 Ford Mustang Mach-E. All right, straight off the top, let's get this out of the way. Let's call it the elephant in the room. It's the fact that they called it Mustang. For 2 years, we've been anticipating the arrival of this vehicle, and for 2 years, die-hard Mustang fans have been just destroying this idea and this concept online. Well, I have to be honest with you, folks. They really weren't thinking about you when they came up with this idea. Think about it. Mustang, when you do the word association game, what does it mean? It means power, it means performance, it means aggressive styling. And in the world of electric vehicles, those that we've had coming out so far haven't really been that way. They've been seen as more sedate and more consumer or commuter oriented. Well, Ford wanted to make a splash. So when they decided to build an EV, they wanted to make a performance oriented EV. And what name goes hand in hand with performance? It's Mustang. Sure, why a crossover? Why not build a traditional Mustang fastback or four-door or small, compact? Well, because they also want to realize to sell a lot of these things, they have to make it spacious for families. So a crossover, why not? And you know what? It's working. Here's the thing. It's working. People, every time you criticize the Mustang, you're talking about it. It's Friday. I've had this vehicle since Monday, and I've had at least 5 times where I've had to stop and talk to total strangers about this car. They want to know about it. They've seen it. They've heard about it. It's a difficult thing to accept if you're a pure Mustang purist, but from a marketing perspective, this is exactly what they needed to do. One of the biggest challenges that the design team of this vehicle had is, you're going to use the name Mustang, but you're going to make it a crossover. You've got to design it in such a way that obviously, the reason why you'd want it to be a crossover is space and family capabilities, but you still want it to at least resemble a Mustang. And if you take a look at this, even though it is a crossover, there are some definite, distinctive design elements that remind you just what the brand is. All Mustangs have that long, muscular hood. You don't need to have that in electric, but you do here. So the overarching aerodynamic flowing lines are here. Certainly you've got that haunch design, which is familiar. You've got your tri-bar tail lights. Again, you see it from the back, you know it's a Mustang. You've obviously got on the front. Now, of course, in the front with electric, you don't need the grille for air intake, but the Mustang emblem is there. Overall, you can definitely see that while this is an electric car, it's a Mustang. So if you're going to change the design to a crossover, you better make it more functional. Of course, that would include adding some extra cargo space, and this does the job. If you have just the second row seats up, you've got 29.7 cubic feet of space, which is pretty good. And if you put the second row seats down, you're up to 59.7. So you could basically put a lot of gear. If there's just the two of you, camping stuff, your coolers. This is a functional ride as well. It's not just electric, it's not just fast, but it's functional too. And of course, you have, with electric cars, no engine, so where you normally have the hood, you got this long, muscular hood line here, you got all this space. Well, what did Ford do? Well, they created more storage. This is what they would call their frunk, and this is actually kind of cool. It's another 4.7 cubic feet of space, but what Ford did is they actually put also a drain plug hole in the bottom, so you could fill this with ice. You could put some drinks in there. You got a little tailgate. You could stick some food in there. You could set it up with the structures to maybe support a platter with ice underneath to keep it cool. It's, a little extra feature when you've got extra space in an electric car. As Ford likes to do so often with their models, they have plenty of options available in terms of powertrain, and the Mustang Mach-E is no different. There are 2 battery packs available. There is a 68 usable kilowatt hour battery, and there's a larger 88 usable kilowatt hour battery. And with each of the two batteries, you also have different drivetrains. You have a rear wheel drive, and you also have an electronic all-wheel drive capability. So how that affects things, it will affect both power output, it will affect range, and it also affects even acceleration time. What I'm driving is the 68 kilowatt hour battery with electronic all-wheel drive. So in terms of actual estimated range, it comes in at 340 kilometers or 211 miles. This would be the lowest of all estimates for the combinations. This same battery pack with a rear wheel drive will have an estimated range of 370 kilometers or 230 miles. With the larger battery pack, the 88 kilowatt hour usable pack, and you had it with an all-wheel drive situation, you would have an estimated driving range of 434 kilometers or 270 miles, but with the rear wheel drive, that jumps up to 482 kilometers or 300 miles. With any EV range estimates, it's always important to note that figures are determined in a controlled environment and should only serve as a baseline as opposed to a hard limit. Just as it would with fuel economy, range can be impacted by a host of factors, including driving style, usage, climate, and more. Over the years, I've gotten pretty good at exceeding range estimates in optimal conditions by at least 25% or more, so just keep this in mind. With estimated driving range being less of a factor nowadays, it's becoming more important to compare EVs based on how efficient they are with the power that they use. Just as we compare fuel economy, we should be paying more attention to energy efficiency, and the Mustang Mach-E officially is ranked somewhere in the middle of the pack with the current crop of EVs on the market. It's not as efficient as a Tesla Model 3 or a Hyundai Ioniq, but it is better overall than a Jaguar I-Pace or a Volvo XC40 Recharge as examples. Overall power output depends on a combination of battery size, drivetrain, and trim level. As this chart shows, it can range from as little as 266 net horsepower with 317 pound-feet of torque based on a 68 kilowatt battery and rear-wheel drive, all the way up to 480 net horsepower with 634 pound-feet of torque that comes with the Mach-E GT Performance Edition. Those same variables also affect acceleration. The slowest Mach-E is the California Route 1 trim with a 0 to 60 or 96 kilometers an hour time of 6.1 seconds, while the quickest will be the GT Performance Edition, which is due out later this year. With that one, you'll blast off the line from 0 to 60 or 96 kilometers an hour in just 3.5 seconds, so make sure you're buckled in. The Mach-E offers you a number of different drive settings which you can choose depending on what type of experience you're looking to have. Unbridled mode is the equivalent of sport mode and offers the most aggressive driving response as well as the most regen braking when in use. You can also select to have interior propulsion sound piped in to give you that sound on the inside at least of what the Mustang combustion engine would typically roar like outside. Whisper mode offers the ability to coast without regen at all, while engaged mode falls in between the other two. You can also choose to use one-pedal driving or stick with the traditional two-pedal approach. Sadly, the Mach-E is not set up for towing. Now this to me is a strategic error since the Tesla Model Y can haul up to 3,200 pounds. And as for the other main perceived competitors to the Mach-E, the Volkswagen ID.4 will reportedly be able to tow 2,200 pounds, and the Nissan Ariya will be rated at 1,500. This definitely is something that Ford will need to keep an eye on, as it's the biggest glaring disadvantage it seems to have against its main competitors. With respect to the interior, there isn't a lot to say about it other than the fact that it's roomy, comfortable, and generally far more minimalist than one is used to seeing in a Ford vehicle. The enormous 15.5-inch tablet center touchscreen is really the focus of the interior overall. Similar to Tesla, they've cleaned up the front dash with almost all controls built into the touchscreen. One notable exception is the volume control, which looks cool by the way it's attached to the outside of the touchscreen on the bottom. Now, I don't like the idea of having everything included on the touchscreen, as I've always believed that certain key controls should be tactile. I prefer to see climate controls and buttons for things like heated seats and steering wheel being removed from the touchscreen, and I'm really scratching my head at the decision to make the control to release the liftgate from inside something I needed to dig 2 layers into the menu to release. Just give me a latch like everyone is used to for this, as I found that to be really annoying. The information cluster is all digital, but with limited information available. However, I didn't find that to be a problem, since the key indicators I wanted were available whenever I needed to reference them. The 2021 Ford Mustang Mach-E is a Mustang. It's not your traditional Mustang that we've been used to for 56 years, but it is everything that a Mustang has always offered. It is performance. It is a great handling vehicle. It's a lot of fun. And in terms of it being a competitor for the Model Y, for the Nissan Ariya, for the Volkswagen ID4, this is a serious competition. Now, I've been fortunate enough to be able to shoot this review at Ajax Downs Racetrack in Ajax, Ontario. They actually race quarter horses here, which is basically sprinters. And I think there's a neat analogy that you can make between the racing here and this Mustang, because quarter horse racing are not thoroughbreds. They're designed differently, but at the end of the time, they're an entertaining option. You may not have been a fan of the branding if you're a Mustang fan, but I think what you really have to try is drive this. And you know what? If you're just an electric fan, you're looking at this for a new suitable crossover electric, you're gonna have to give this a try. This is an amazing first attempt, and I can't wait to see how Ford expands their electric lineup overall. But for now, that's it for this review. From Ajax Downs Racetrack in Ajax, Ontario, I'm Eric Novak. Thanks for watching. There's plenty of ways for you to keep connected with me, so check out some of my social media links, suggested videos, and I'd really love it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel.